Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent Battle Rush seasonal event action. That means that we have only 8 seconds to play cards and 15 seconds to choose cards in between rounds. So to play in this game mode, we need a deck that plays really fast. Last time we used a Northern Realms deck that combined passive boosting and passive damage. This time we're going to focus on the damage with the Skellige deck. As a reminder, in the Battle Rush seasonal event, because we have so little time on our turn, we want to have cards that take very little time to use. For that reason, we're going to have lots of cards that have passive damage, and then cards that get boosted when we apply that damage. So we'll be playing as Skellige and using the Reckless Flurry leader ability, which will split 8 damage randomly across all enemy units, ignoring their armor. This is going to be a little bit tricky to fit this in on our turn because it does take some time to pull this off, but at least we only use it once. For that reason, it is perhaps one of the better Skellige abilities in this seasonal event. First card on our list is the Wild Boar of the Sea. When we play it in the melee row, it will damage all damaged enemy units by 1, and then damage all enemy units by 1 after that. This is a way of applying a ton of damage and boosting those cards that get boosted when we apply damage. Then we have Geralt Yrden, which will reset a row either on our side or our opponent's side. If our opponent boosts a lot, then we can bring them back down to a reasonable level. Next, we have Gerd, which when we play it, will gain 1 armor for every damaged unit on the playing field. And if we have 4 or fewer cards in our hand, then every time our opponent plays a unit, that unit will damage Gerd, and Gerd will damage that unit. So we can find a way to give it additional armor, additional boosts, or generally protect it, and that'll make it even more effective. Next, we have Dagur Two Blades, and when we play this card in the melee row, it will get boosted by 1 every time we deal damage. So this is the primary card that gets boosted when we deal that damage. Next, we have Geralt of Rivia, which will destroy a card with 9 or more strength on the opposing side. This is one of the best ways to delete our opponent's best cards. Next, we have Covenant of Steel, which is our defender card to help protect other, more vulnerable units. When it has 6 or fewer strength, it will gain 1 armor as well. Next, we have Sukrus, and the card to the left of Sukrus cannot take any damage. This is a great combination to go along with that defender, so that opponents need to target the defender and can't damage the defender, or Gerd as well. Then we have Gerd, and when we play Gerd, he will create a siren in the opposing row, and then damage all units in that row by 1, so another way of applying a lot of damage. However, if we wait until we have 4 or fewer cards in our hand, he will only damage the siren that he creates, and not all the other units, so that means that we actually need to play him on the early side. Next, we have the Giant Boar, and when we play it in the melee row, it will get boosted by 1 for every damaged unit, both our own and our opponent's. If we play it in the range row, then it will get boosted by the amount a single enemy unit is damaged. More likely, we're going to play this in the melee row. Next, we have Herkja Drummond. At the end of our turn, she will deal 1 damage unless we have used her order ability, and that ability is, as long as she's in the melee row, she can split 3 damage randomly between enemy units on a specific row. May not have a ton of time to get that order off, but it is primarily that passive 1 damage per turn that we're going to want to get from her. Next, we have Delirium, which splits 6 damage randomly across all units in an enemy row, so this is a way of applying a ton of damage to boost some of those units that get boosted when we deal damage, and also remove some of our opponent's stronger cards. Next, we have the Gigascorpian Decoction, which will deal 1 damage 6 times to a single unit, rather than splitting it across an entire row. Next, we have the Craite Greatsword, which when we play it will actually damage itself by 6, dropping it down to a 4. However, every time we damage an enemy unit, it will heal itself by 1, so this is another unit that benefits from us dealing damage. Next, we have the Drummond Berserker, and at the end of our turn, it will deal 1 damage to both itself and a random enemy unit, and once it hits 3 strength, it will transform into a Bear Abomination, at which point it will have 6 strength, however, it will no longer deal damage to our opponent, so this is another source of passive damage. Next, we have the Craite Warcrier, and if there are 1 or more damage units on the opposing side, then it will get boosted by 1 at the end of our turn, so this is a source of passive boosting as long as we can get that done. Next, we have the Craite Longship, and if we played in the melee row, then every time our opponent plays a unit, it will get damaged by 1, so this is a slightly different kind of passive damage. Next, we have Gutting Slash, which is a special card that will deal 4 damage to a unit, or if there are at least 2 damage units on the opposing side, then it will go all the way up to 6 damage. So this is damage to boost some of our cards, and also removal. Then we have Thaw, which will boost a unit by 4 and give it Veil. Thought here is that we probably give this to either our defender or Gerd to make them a little bit stronger and a little bit harder to take down. And lastly, we have a couple of Iron Falcon Knife Jugglers. When we play this card, it will give 2 random enemy units bleeding for 2 turns. So more damage, although somewhat slow, and therefore probably a card that we don't want to have in our hand all that often. So there's a look at the deck. The focus is passive damage and to a certain extent passive boosting. So it should have a little more damage, but a little less boosting than the Northern Realms deck that we were using previously. So if you're looking to switch things up a bit, then this could be just the deck for you. Okay, so we're going against Nilfgaard here. They'll lock us down. Not the end of the world, because it does take a little while to get our leader ability off. And we have a decent amount of damage here. I think we maybe get rid of our Gutting Slashes in that case, and well, the Knife Juggler's not really what we want to see in that case. Let's try getting rid of you. Gerd is good, except we don't have the cards to go along with it that we'd like to see here. So I think we probably lead off with our Longships. Throw those down in the melee row. That way, whenever our opponent plays a card, a unit at least, it'll get damaged. Okay. They'll draw a card. Well, this is the thing with Nilfgaard. It takes a long time to use most of your cards, so I'm not a huge fan of them in this seasonal event. We'll play our other Longship here. And at this point, deal in a reasonable amount of damage to any card that they play. They've given us enough of an opportunity to set up shop with these ships. And does our damage apply before that deployability triggers? It does not. Okay, well, you got just about the worst possible card to boost yourself with that time. I think now what we do is we bring out the Greatsword. That'll get boosted whenever we're dealing the damage. And that time, our opponent was not quick enough. They were so slow that they burned a card altogether. I think we might actually want to go with the Iron Falcon Juggler here. It's not one of our better cards, and so I'm deliberately going to... Oh, I was a little slow on our tactic there, so I wanted to use it on the Longship, but it auto-targeted the Iron Falcon Knife Juggler because we ran out of time. But yeah, I think I'm deliberately going to play some of our weaker cards here because, especially after our opponent burned a card there, after they were too slow, I'm thinking we may not need to play some of our better cards in this round. We may be able to scrape by with some of our weaker ones and still get away with a win. So, like here, for example, maybe just a Drummond Berserker, that might be good enough. And then I'm thinking we might want to pass soon, because we have a pretty sizable lead here, 24-1. Okay, yeah, and our opponent passes. That's not terribly surprising. So let's pass here as well. We're down a card, yes, but that probably means we'll just end up passing early in round 2 and go into round 3 and go for the victory there. Okay, so we have 8 cards, our opponent has 9. That means that we may be able to play 1 here, that's about it. Let's get rid of Gutting Slash. Geralt of Rivia is fine. Berserker, I think we might want to get rid of you, and, well, Knife Juggler is definitely not great. I think this will probably be our throwaway card, because we do have 1 card to burn here. We can still draw 3 at the end of this round and get back up to our maximum of 10. So we'll play this. It obviously doesn't really do much of anything here, because its deployability has nothing to hit, but that's fine. We're just getting rid of one of our weakest cards and thinning our deck a bit in preparation for round 3. And our opponent, well, gets out what is perhaps one of their stronger cards. So that's fine to see that, because we were going to hand them this round anyway. In fact, we may have interrupted their combo there. They played it in the range row, so they put the lowest card on the top of our deck, and we can probably just sift through that when we're drawing next turn. Oh, dear. I mean, they were too slow, and they burned a card that time. Not the end of the world, because they're still going to draw 3 cards for this next round. However, who knows what they ended up burning there. Could have been that they had to discard one of their best cards. And that's why you have to be quick. You have to think in advance of what you're going to play on your next turn. So I think we get rid of Gutting Slash. Warcrier is okay, not great. Thaw could work with Arnaghad, but is not fantastic. Greatsword is okay here. We'd like to have something else to set you up, either a Sukrus or a Defender. And we didn't get either of those, so that's a little bit unfortunate. Okay, that's a good card to play first. It would normally boost us, which is not good, but since you have no one to target with it, no boosting, we'll get out our damage early. Oh, we do have a Defender. Snuck past me. I suppose that could be a decent combo with Arnaghad, because yeah, now we're going to see our opponent starting to break out some of the outright removal. So we might want to play you next. Let's do that, and then ideally we would have done that first and protected our damage a little bit more, because that was one of our best damaging cards. Other cards here are getting boosted by the damage, or Wild Boar of the Sea can apply the damage for sure. You'll get boosted as long as we have some damage out there. And also, yeah, truth be told, we should be playing in the range row against Nilfgaard if possible. Except we did need to block you. Let's actually, yeah, let's get you down here. So I think what we may do next is get down on Craite Greatsword, because that will also benefit from dealing the damage. Oh, Assimilate, no, you don't have time. Do not play Assimilate in this game mode. It's a bad idea. You're fortunate that that happened to play in the melee row. It was going to be a random positioning. When you run out of time on your turn, it will just play the card in a random row for you. You were lucky that it played the melee row there. It could have ended up in the range row. But we are running out of time a little bit to boost Dagur Two Blades here. Oh, except our opponent, again, ran out of time. Okay, so now I think we may need to throw down the Gigascorpian Decoction. Let's put it here. That'll boost our cards that get boosted when we apply the damage. And you are damaged enough that you will start gaining some armor back. Warcrier is good to play soon because there is at least one damage unit. Thinking that's probably coming next, and then maybe Gerd after that. Okay, so let's get you down, and suppose we should play you in the range row. Except, oh, you boosted this guy. When did you do that? Oh, the emissary. Gotcha. Ah, you snuck that past me. I was already planning ahead, so much so that I did not even take note of that. So, do we have other sources of damage? Potentially, but Wild Boar of the Sea is best when we have already applied damage to our opponent, and it's not really going to be the case here. Okay, well, this is going to give you a high-strength card, but we're just going to destroy it with Geralt of Rivia, so sorry, but you kind of just played right into this one for us. Okay, we're going to bleed our defender. That's fine. Let's actually put Geralt of Rivia behind the defender, just in case you have something like, say, a coup de grace that you can't create a copy of Geralt's. Okay, and you're going to destroy a card, assuming you played in the melee row. Which card will you destroy? I honestly didn't... Oh, it was our 10 strength Greatsword. That makes sense. Okay, now I think we probably play Gerd. I suppose we play you in the melee row. That way you are sort of protected by you. I mean, again, Sukrus would be the ideal pairing. That way we can make it so that you take no damage. But you are going to hit whichever card our opponent plays now, which will deal some damage, which will help set up Dagur Two Blades, and perhaps finally the on-Craite Warcrier. You're going to try to seize something. You could seize either Geralt's or your spy, but we're going to destroy you in the process, and that'll set some cards up here. Okay, I'm thinking Wild Boar of the Sea is probably coming next, but it's not great, because our opponent does not have many damage units here. But it is still at least some damage, and now, finally, we can start boosting the on-Craite Warcrier. And, of course, you'll go last, likely in the melee row. Oh, Neuromancy, you don't have time. Don't do it. I know it's tempting, but you just don't have time to pull it off. There are too many animations between playing the card, opening up your deck, picking that card, playing that card in the right row, and any other abilities that it has that it's just so hard to pull it off. Okay, now put out the giant boar in the melee row, gets boosted by the number of damaged cards, and it turns into a pretty comfortable victory there. Okay, so we're going against Nilfgaard here, and they will go first. Okay, so we have a Gutting Slash, which I think we probably dump here. Either that or some of our Iron Falcon Jugglers. I like the Longship. I like Gerd. Okay, this works, I think. We can probably make do with one of these. Okay, the Locking Tactic, where they get boosted by 1 every time they play a card with Deploy. I think we get out the Longships here in preparation for dealing some damage, and I'm curious to see which cards they're gonna try to lock with that tactic. You could even do it on the Longship. Ooh, okay. And have both of us draw a card. We're going to draw a weak card. You're going to draw a strong card. It gives us a Gutting Slash, which is not really what we're looking for. Probably not one of our better cards, but get down another Longship here. Basically just setting up our damage early. So that, and then maybe Herkja Drummond next, perhaps? Portal? Okay, I mean, this is fairly slow playstyle our opponent is using here. But the summoning does work well, because that does avoid taking the damage from the Longships. Let's take you next. You do need to be in the melee row. That is one of the downsides here, is that we have a lot of cards that need to go in the melee row, and Nilfgaard is, in some cases, best against cards in the melee row. Okay, do we have any statuses? We do, with the card we just played, so this will summon the other Hunting Pack card from your deck. Okay, and then we could get even more damage still. Let's actually go Gerd in the range row to damage everyone here, because we do need to play him a little bit early to get that off. Ideally, we would have had on-Craite Greatsword down, because he does benefit from all the damage. We do have enough out here, though, that I think it'll probably still work. I mean, sure, you can lock one of the Longships, but should still be fine. And you are going with lots of cards that summon cards from your deck. Very similar idea here between the Imperial Brigade and Hunting Pack. Now let's get the Greatsword out. And, I mean, we could even consider using Herkja Drummond's ability or our leader ability in the not-so-distant future, now that we have you out there. Any other cards we want to get that benefit from the damage? And now they're using their leader ability to lock the Greatsword. All their leader ability charges, in fact. Interesting. Pretty aggressive move there. Does make me wonder what they're going for here. I think we get you out, and then I'm eyeing the Wild Boar of the Sea, because we have a lot of opposing damage units. So I think we can do a lot of work there. But they do have a bit of a lead. I think this is probably enough that we could catch them if necessary. Okay, what are you going to try to banish and spawn a copy of at the top of our deck? Berserker. Okay, fair enough. It's not a great card, so not thrilled for us to get another copy of it. I think here, I think we go for it. And it does give us a slim lead. That was our big play here, because our opponent doesn't really have any targets yet for either of the Geralts. And the Gutting Slash is, yes, it would be 6 damage, which I suppose we could use here. It's not a bad play. I'm tempted to use this. But I think we'll keep on going here and force our opponent to keep on playing. They are setting up a bit for a future round with all these infiltrators. These will end up in our deck at the next round. Yeah, they're going with a fair bit of Viper School synergies to manipulate our deck here. I mean, if you want to put her on the top of our deck, that is quite alright with me. Ideally, we would have used our ability with her first. I mean, this is enough to take one of you out and take the lead here. We don't really want to be playing either Geralt in this situation, so I do kind of want to pass regardless of what you do here. Yeah, so this is a tough one, because we could win this round if we used our leader ability or if we even played a Geralt, but I really do want to save them. So I'll tell you what, Geralt Yrden on ourselves, get you back up to a 10. The rare self Geralt Yrden, but on this occasion I think does work and does work well. And that may have thrown them off a little bit here. They probably did not expect that. Yeah, okay. I think we'll take that then. We'll pass here. They use all their leader charges. We still have our leader ability. We did have to use some of our stronger cards, yes, and they did throw some other cards in our deck that we may not necessarily want to see. We'll see what we draw into here. So we got the Greatsword. Herkja Drummond is fine. This is actually a pretty good combo here, and so is this. We might stick with this. Geralt of Rivia is hard in a short round, so I'm a little bit hesitant to use you. Well, Knife Juggler, okay. Did have just enough time to swap you into a Greatsword instead. I think let's get you out here, and we'll try going for this round, because we are on even cards. There's no reason not to, and then worst comes to worst. You know, we don't win this one, we'll just play for the win in round 3. Okay, they're going with a Defender. As for what they're going to hide behind that Defender, that is maybe the big question. And then our leader ability can cut through that pretty effectively, because it ignores armor. I think we want to get a Greatsword out there as soon as possible, because it benefits from the damage, and then we probably try to get the other one out, and then after that, the Berserker, and then leader ability to boost these guys up. I think that's probably the order of operations here, unless our opponent does something to mess with our strategy. But again, the cards that you have to fish through your deck to get, and then that's going to play a tactic card. You just don't have time for this. Okay, sure, Assassinate. Do you have time to target? No, it's going to randomly target, because your turn ended. So, probably not the target you would have liked to have hit. It looks like our opponent realized that they could not win at this point and may have just closed the game. Yup, and there it is. We would have played our Greatsword and our Berserker, and then used our leader ability to charge up that Greatsword, and I think it would have been a pretty convincing round 3 victory after that. And there you also see some of the frustration that comes with if you do not have a deck that is specifically built for playing quickly in this seasonal event, it's going to be a pain if you can't use all the combos that you would normally be able to do if you had the normal turn duration. Okay, so we're going against monsters here. They'll go first. Okay, and we have Sukrus plus Gerd, which I think is a very good combo. We have some damage with Herkja Drummond and the Wild Boar of the Sea. I think I actually like this hand quite a lot. We might keep this as is. Maybe the Warcrier, Geralt of Rivia. Okay. Certainly could be a very good piece, situationally. Okay, they are at least seeming to set up some consumption, which means potentially something like Keltullus, which can work well in this seasonal event. I was kind of intrigued by that option because it is a passive way of destroying cards on the opposing side, but it does take time to do that consumption if it's an order ability like this, from this card here, so we'll see. Going with Thrive now. And we got the damage out early. I think maybe we get the cards that get boosted by that damage now. Don't have that much damage with this setup. The other one would be maybe the Berserker, but not as strong, not as consistent a damager as Herkja Drummond is, because he'll transform after a few turns. Gerd. We could outright destroy him with Geralt of Rivia. Is a little bit tempting. Might want to do that early, just in case you have a defender. Let's play it simple here. Get the job done. More Andriga Larva. I would love to hit... We'll see if this is in the melee row. It's in the range row. I was going to say, if you put them all in the same row, I'd love to hit you with a Gerd, but you have the armor, so it doesn't work so well. I think we might want to start getting Sukrus out in preparation for Arnaghad coming soon. Okay, boosting a unit in your hand. They're saving up for something big. Just not entirely sure what it is yet. Okay, and Gerd, at this point, we need to play you this round. Let's go. I think it's actually rain. It doesn't matter much. Either way, we're only going to damage one unit. Other ones are going to just tank it with the armor. So next comes Arnaghad, though our opponent... Well, I mean, they're saving up for something. I'm just not sure what it is. Okay, Armor to Raucous. Apply some bleeding. To Gerd. Sure. Trigger all the thrives. I think now we get you out. And that is the ideal combo there. Better still would be if we had the defender to block these guys even further, but it means that our opponent will play a card, Arnaghad will deal damage, 7 damage to it, and that card will try to deal damage to Arnaghad, but because he's next to Sukrus, he can't take damage. This will destroy the Kikimor Warrior, as it gets destroyed if it loses its armor. And there goes the consumption. They are technically still winning here, but I think now we play something simple, because I'm liking our setup. Just go for a little boost there on Arnaghad. That way, just about anything they play will get destroyed by him. Unless if they spawn units in. It's a clever workaround. Okay. Now I'm thinking it's probably the Drummond Berserker at this point. And we do even have pretty decent setup for Geralt Yrden if necessary. I'm looking at this melee row. It seems like a decent place to reset some units. Even Francis Bedlam here is 4 higher than usual. But I think it's still probably more efficient to go melee row here. They're spawning a bunch of these drones. I'm thinking, what, a Glusty maybe? So what if we just damaged all of them and destroyed all of them? How about that? And I think our opponent is going to pass after this, because that probably did just mess with whatever plan they had. Yeah. Okay, so we'll pass here. And one thing to note is because there's so little time to switch around your cards and plan, this period here, where you see your cards getting drawn, use that to figure out which cards you want to keep and which ones you want to exchange, like Iron Falcon, Knife Juggler. Don't really want you. Greatsword, we don't have a ton of time to set you or the Giant Boar up, to tell you the truth. Same with the Warcrier. So I don't love this. I mean, we can try getting the Longship out here. We could set you two up with our leader ability, I suppose, could be the way to go, but even Geralt Yrden in a short round is a little bit of a risk, because our opponent might not have time to do much boosting, in which case Geralt Yrden is just a 2-strength card, that's basically nothing. So I think we get the Craite Greatsword out here. Worst comes to worst, we can reset you and get you back up to a 10, which is worth something. Okay, you're gonna consume the unit, then spawn some drones. Still seems like I'm sensing the Glusty. Unfortunately, we don't get last say here. If we did, then it'd be great to throw in the Geralt Yrden last. I mean, if you do play Glusty now, then that's definitely what we'll do. If not, then we might pass with Geralt Yrden hanging out in our hand. Or boost all drones, or other insectoids. And that is still a decent Geralt play here. I'm just not sure it's enough. I mean, again, it's hard to do the math in the short amount of time that you have, so it's possible that, say, using Geralt Yrden on that enemy row there that had all the drones boosted and then using our leader ability, that might have been enough, but I just couldn't do the math quickly enough to know for certain, so I tried to play it a little bit safe there just in case. Let's get rid of the Juggler. Dagger is good if we can get the damage. Gutting Slash, I think we prefer something else. Well, our other Gutting Slash is maybe not what we were thinking, but this could also be good with our leader ability. We might even deliberately save this for last and then follow up with our leader ability just to try to protect it, because now we do have last say, and our opponent has used all their leader abilities. Okay, so I think let's lead off with maybe even you. I mean, yes, there's something to be said for having Dagger out there when the Drummond Berserker is dealing some damage. It would give you some boosts, but I'm not too concerned about min-maxing this. I'm more concerned about our opponent outright removing Dagur Two Blades, because I think that's the real risk here. So I think this plus our leader ability may be enough. Just want to get, I mean, ideally a little bit of damage out there to set up Gutting Slash at this point, which may not happen. Yeah, I think we do need to play you now. You'll get boosted a little bit from this damage here, and we hope that's enough to protect you. Hope our opponent doesn't have something like, say, a Parasite to deal 6 damage to Dagger, otherwise he's going down and that's going to hurt a lot. Eater, really? Interesting. Okay, sure. And now I think we probably do go with the Gutting Slash and say just remove you. And last turn will be probably Yrden to reset Eater, and then leader ability after that. See what our opponent has remaining. Decoy, what? A Yrden. Sneaky. Takes some time, so I don't think you're going to have the time to do all the consumption. So that might have backfired on you a bit. Okay, and now that means we reset you. Could have even reset you, potentially. Now, leader ability. and that is definitely enough. So there's a good example of Skellige having enough damage to disrupt just about anything that our opponent could throw at us. So there's a look at another deck specifically designed for the Battle Rush seasonal event, using passive damage from Skellige. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know whether you prefer this more damage-oriented Skellige deck, or the combination of boosts and damage with Northern Realms that we saw in our previous Battle Rush matches. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.